Good day and welcome to Data Color Academy. My name is Jeff Watts. I'm a Senior Application Specialist with Data Color. And today's Tinter tip is concerning sample measurement. A brief agenda. We're going to be basically looking at best practices in measuring samples to match in the retail or environment or store environment. We'll also show a quick demo of multiple measurement in our Paint software. So in discussing sample measurement, what we're discussing is the best way and best practices to be able to present a sample or some type of a target that a customer has brought to you that they want to be able to match a color in a can of paint. So the first thing that we need to make sure is we need to make sure that our spectrophotometer that we're using is clean and it has been calibrated. It's always good to have it on a maintenance schedule. And to be quite frank, you may want to check out our webinar on spectrophotometer maintenance to give you a hand and make sure that your spectrophotometer is always ready and good to go when a customer is asking for a custom match. The sample being measured needs to cover the whole hole, so to speak, or the sample has to cover the whole aperture plate hole when presented to the spectrophotometer. It's also good to make sure that the sample measurement arm is pushed up against the sample once it's all set up. That way the sample is secure and you're going to get a good tight measurement of the color that you need to match. If you are using a color card matcher, which is a feature that we have in our Paint software, it may be best to ask if there's a sample to measure first. And the reason that you'd want to do that is because with color card matcher, basically that is an electronic catalog of multiple fan decks that we have within our Paint software. You need to remember that those fan decks were measured in when they were brand new and they were under pristine conditions with a brand new spectrophotometer. If the customer is asking to match a particular color and you can find that in color card match, you want to ask if they have a sample to measure first, because the sample they may have may come from a fan deck that they have that may be older, it may be faded, the samples may have been left out in the weather or what have you. So there's a good chance that even though you pull up the color and match it in color card matcher, it may not match the sample if the customer actually has a sample. So in these cases, it's probably best to ask if they have a sample to measure before actually going to color card matcher and matching the sample from there. It's always good to remember that for coarse or rough samples, as well as for fabrics, things like stucco or wood siding or rugs or anything that's really heavily textured or rough, you're going to want to measure that multiple times to be able to get a good measurement. In order to take a look at that, let's go ahead and jump to our computer, where, as you can see, we have our Paint software up. Basically, we're running from the home screen right here, and we run from the home screen and we pick Custom Match. I already had it open, and this is where we go to match a color. And what I'd like to do is just show you real quick how to do multiple measurements for a sample in Paint. You'll notice also that when you're set up here in Paint and ready to measure, that up here in this yellow bar area, we do have tips that are available to you to make sure that you set up the instrument and the sample so that you get your best measurement. For example, making sure that the sample itself is clean, making sure to put it at the front opening, the aperture, and cover the whole hole. Also, make sure to use the sample arm, as we discussed, to keep it from moving, and do more than one reading if the sample is textured. And of course, we'll primer you to click the measurement button. If you look down here, you have a measurement button in red that's all set up. And once I actually click to measure, if this were a rough sample, the system will go through, it'll measure the sample for you once, and then once it actually measures that sample, it will register the sample color, and it will also register the measurements auto average turned on right here where you have one measurement. If I move the sample and measure it again, the instrumental measure, and start averaging all these different readings together. Again, this is especially important if you're measuring something like wood siding or stucco, not just to move the sample to a different spot, but also, if possible, to rotate the sample a little bit each time you measure to allow the system to get a really good look at it so that you can get the best formula possible. You have options that once you're done with your measurements, you can delete the last measurement or delete all the measurements and start all over again. Once you're happy with your measurements, which depending on how rough the sample is, you'll probably want to measure it 3 to 5 times to get a good average. Enter in your color name, and then click on Select Product to continue and get a formula for the color. We hope you've enjoyed this Tinter tip, and we hope that you have found it valuable for you in measuring and using your system in a retail environment. If you'd like to learn more, please sign up at Data Color Academy or follow us on the Data Color blog. Thank you for your time today. We hope you have a great day and hope to be hearing from you soon.